What's going on, creative people? Welcome to Minecraft Engineering. My name is Neon, as you can see on the right, and I'll be showing you today how to build a ship that can move in all directions without using any kind of mods. This is in Pocket Edition, so you can play this in a very basic main version of Minecraft, whether it's on a phone, which is what I'm doing, believe it or not. I know, heresy. Or on a PC or Xbox, tablet, whatever. Cool, so the place where I've built this is in Neon's realm. There's multiple cities, multiple different engineering projects. The main one I'm going to show you today is the ship. So let's take a look at this. Now, you see the purple loading screen, but you're going to notice that it changes because I have the city texture pack. The city texture pack did cost me something. I think I had a few extra free points at some point from Minecraft, and I used that to buy it. But it's pretty cheap. This is just an aesthetic feature, so you can also do this in the normal version of Minecraft without any texture packs. Alrighty, so first thing I'm going to do is show you how this works. Well, it's actually very dark, so I'm just going to change to daylight real quick. I'm using creative mode, and I've got cheats switched on. So there's no achievements, but building all this stuff makes it worth it. So here we are, nice and daylight, right? You got 4 switches, left, forward, right, and backwards. And there's a command block. That's what it looks like in the city texture pack anyways. So the command block here is useless. Ignore that. It has no code in it. I just use it to check if the game is lagging or not. Anyways, so if you press forward on the ship, you will see that it starts to move. Alright, so there's our forward movement, and the ship is continuing to move until a special redstone failsafe kicks in and it stops moving, so that it doesn't end up crashing into the docks here, because otherwise it just kind of destroys everything that you build. If it keeps going, it will just destroy anything and replace it with water, because as you can see on the left, it is using a clone function in the command blocks. Now, even if you don't know how to program command blocks, don't worry too much about it. You can just copy the code over, and if you're using a ship that's the same size, you can design it however you want, and it will still work. Now that it stopped moving, with a little bit of space to go before it was going to crash violently into the dock, we can take a look at how this thing actually works. I'm going to try and make this brief and as simple to understand as possible. So we got to go underwater to take a look at where the command blocks are positioned. There are 4 command blocks for the movement, just like there's 4 directions. So that is an awfully loud splash. Let's turn the volume down a little bit. Alright, so the forward moving command block is right underneath the front of the ship, right here, at the lowest point possible. The ones that move it to the right and left have been grouped together here, and the one that moves it to the back has been put right at the back. Makes it look like a bit like an engine of a ship, an actual spinny thing. I forget what they're called. You can put it in the comment section down below. It'll come back to me later. So the way this is working is that there's redstone inside the ship that runs through this interior until it reaches the block and activates the block. And it's very simple. It's just, signal is just sent from up here. So when I pull the lever, one of these levers, it will send the signal down into the command block, and it's going to move. It can go backwards, forwards, left, and right, like I said before. So we're going to take a look at the code. Now, don't be too intimidated by this code. If you don't understand how it works, just copy it over bit by bit. Make sure you don't make any mistakes, and your ship will still move as long as it's the right size. We'll talk about the size in a bit. So, before I click on this code, I have to give proper credit to a channel called KabisLand, who in 2018 put out an awesome little video that was titled Moving a Ship Using Command Blocks. Now, the Moving a Ship Using Command Blocks video had a command block that was programmed to move it forward only, so it could only move forward. But this was game-changing for me, because when I saw that code, I realized you can do quite a lot of stuff in Pocket Edition that most people wouldn't think is possible unless you're using some kind of patch or some kind of modded version. So thanks so much to KabisLand for the initial code. What I did have to do with that code was I did have to figure out how to write the code so that the ship could move left, right, and backwards as well, which was not an easy thing to do. The amount of times that I accidentally cloned like half a ship or moved it like 100 blocks to the right and destroyed some building is, well, I had to do it a lot, and I had to reset the realm quite a few times because it was trial and error. So the forward moving code is here. You can pause the screen if you need to like copy it over, letter for letter, number by number. And what it does is, let's take a look at the coordinates. So these are all about coordinates and relative coordinates. When you're moving forward, you want to make sure that the X direction, which is, as you can see on my screen, you have X right and left, Z backwards and forwards, and then Y is up and down. But a ship doesn't really move up and down because it's not a plane, so we can just kind of ignore that mostly. So what it's doing is, the X direction, you have the first coordinate, which is -5. That coordinate is telling you that -5 from X, from here to here, which is up to the side of the ship, is being kind of included in the code calculation for how wide this thing should be. If you made it -6, you could clone a ship that's a bit wider. But if it's -5, it's exactly this kind of width. So keep that in mind. Now the -1, the next number. Oh, wait, actually, there's a squiggle in the middle that I didn't mention. There was a squiggle -5 and another squiggle. I call them squiggles because I don't actually know what they're called. They're like those little bendy things. You see them? That little squiggle is telling you that the direction of up, the empty one, is telling you that the direction of up is not really relevant. So that doesn't have to change. You just put a squiggle by itself. Then the -1 is telling you that it needs to move forward in the Y direction. So if you look at my position overall on the numbers, when I move one step forward, it goes from 2,721 to 2,720. That is moving forward by 1 block. So the -1 movement is telling you that it needs to move forward by 1 block. Next up, the 3 coordinates, the 5, 15, and 45, are telling you how big the ship is. So when I'm going 5, it's the width of the ship, just like we discussed with the -5, except it's in the other direction to make sure that you're not cloning just half a ship. Then you have 15 for the height. So when you fly up, you go all the way up to 75, I think. A little bit lower, 72. And that makes sure the roof comes along. Everything within line of the roof is coming along on this ship ride. And then you got the 45, which is the length. So if you wanted to make a ship longer, you'd have to change that number. But it gets really complicated, and you want to include the water right at the back as well in the length. You want to be moving the ship as it clones with one piece of water at the back, so that it doesn't just start to clone itself and do this kind of thing. This weird thing starts to happen if you don't include any water. I've made really elongated, stretchy ships by accidentally not including the water in the calculation. So try and make sure that you do when you go ahead and program this. All right, so that's the forward code. Take a good look at it, and let's move on. And we're going to take a look at the code that goes to the left. This is the code that goes to the left, this block here. Right? I'm going to click on it. You can pause the video. Now here you have to put in different values because you're now in a different place in time space / in your realm. You're no longer in the same coordinate position as the first command block. So you have to do everything relative to that. Now, it's kind of complicated to explain. It takes a long time, and I want to make this brief. So just feel free to copy that code over into whatever project you're working on. And make sure you get the numbers right. And we're going to move on. This is the block that teleports it to the right. Take a good look. And remember, replace force at the end is very important. It's not enough to just put in the coordinates. You actually have to say replace force, because as it clones itself, it's going to delete its old version and clone a new version one step to the right. Okay, and finally, the backwards command block. Take a good look. And this time it's at the right at the end, you can see it's -44, which means it's moving in the opposite direction as the one that we looked at right at the beginning, because you want it to go backwards, right? So those are the codes that I kind of came up with to make this ship move. Anything that's out, the ship starts to leave the port. Now it's a bit slow because I'm running this on a phone. If you're on a PC, you're going to have a good time with how much faster it operates. But for me, it's handy to have it on my phone. I'm traveling a lot and I play on the go. Plus the Pocket Edition phone version is actually really user-friendly. So you can get away with playing it on a phone. All of this stuff, all of this that you see is built on mobile. Alright, so it's moving backwards, and there's a beautiful sunset happening in the background. So now you know the code, you need to know how to make this ship stop. The first thing that's happening is... Oh, good God, we need to make it stop. Make it stop! Now this is because of a Redstone failsafe system that I built in, where after a certain amount of movements, the ship will stop by itself. That's to prevent it from just keeping on moving and crashing into things indefinitely and forever, creating holes in mountains and buildings, etc. So, we've got the button up here. Now the way that this works is it sends a redstone signal down into the hull. So we're going to go down. And all that I'm doing is it's coming down here onto this, then coming down here, then coming down here, then coming down here. It's basically just coming down. It doesn't matter how you do this as long as it goes straight down. And until it hits this repeater circuit. Now the circuit is built so that it sends a signal in a circle over and over. So I'm just going to destroy this so that we don't accidentally make the ship move, so I can demonstrate. Alright, so I don't know why that's bugging out. So if I go on off, you can see there's a signal constantly going in rotation. That is what makes it move one block at a time, okay? So it's cloning the ship because the command block is down here in this dark cave, and it makes you look like you're a drunk maniac trying to construct incredible things in this realm. So, this is going in circles. As it goes in circles, it sends a signal to the command block back there, and it also sends a current this way until it hits a piston. The piston interrupts the circuit and the ship stops moving. Right? That is kind of important. It's important to have this piston because if you don't have it, it's really hard to stop a moving ship from cloning because it's constantly cloning itself. You can't really go and break a block very easily. So you want to have a failsafe built in like this. Okay, so all you need to be able to do is send the current down from the top, have it enter a repeating circuit that goes in circles, so that the command block that's connected allows it to clone backwards, 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 over and over, and also have a failsafe that sends the circuit, that sends the signal from the lever above down this way through these repeaters. They're all on tick 4 because the longer you have it on, the more movement can happen. If I put these all to tick 1, this thing right here would activate straight away and would always interrupt the circuit, would never move. So it's good to have a little bit of a delay, see the delay, and then boom, it activates, interrupts the circuit, and your ship stops moving. It's a failsafe. If you don't care about this, you don't have to build in the failsafe. You can just make the ship move and manually destroy the redstone every time. It's a bit tricky, like I said, but up to you. When you press the button, it sends a signal down below independently on each column. So this one goes down here, finds its way to here, and then gets sent on its own little redstone journey, so to say, through these kind of canals. They make sure they don't cross with any of the other ones because you want to make sure that it only touches the direction you want it to move into. And then eventually it ends up, as you can see here, it's like an engine room down here. Eventually it ends up in its own little rotating circuit, just the same. Goes in circles, 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 sends the signal to the failsafe through these repeaters, which are again mostly on tick 4, and then activates this piston right here, which will safeguard it and interrupt it after a certain amount of movements. This is where the redstone is sent to the command block, in the bottom front of the ship, which we looked at earlier, and that will cause it to move forward in that direction. Coolio. Now, it's all the same for the other ones. There's another circle here, another failsafe here with a piston that'll interrupt it. Basically, you just have to be able to fit 4 of those into the hull. It doesn't really matter how you do it. But once you do that, your ship can move in every direction possible. Make sure the code is right. And make sure that your tablet or whatever you're using can handle the movement. I mean, to be honest, you don't really need amazing specs in order to be able to make this move itself. Like, it'll just be a bit slower or faster depending on what you've got. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. You can always put your graphics down and help your device out in that way. One of the other things you can do is feel free to destroy the entire design here and come up with your own. Like, build a yacht instead of a ship like this. Build a cruise liner or something. And whatever it is that you're going to do, it can move. In one of the next videos that I'm going to put up, I'll discuss how to make these things move a little faster, like a little more than 1 block at a time, maybe 2 or 3. But we'll save that for another day. So thanks for watching Minecraft Engineering. There'll be lots of other projects that I'll be talking about, like my brother and I are building a rocket, so very SpaceX type rocket, which can self-land and take off and has an engine that actually puts out like explosive fire and smoke and stuff like that, or at least it looks like it does. So we're gonna have a look at that as well in one of the future episodes. So if you like this content, you know what to do. Like and subscribe, the usual spiel that people say at the end of these videos. And we'll also have a look at the contents of this epic ship that one of my friends Patrick built. Now, like I said, everyone's constantly contributing to this realm, so these creations have been a group effort. Some amazing things that have been built here by my good friends. Props to them for that. So we'll take a good look at this stuff in future episodes. Stay tuned and build a ship that moves. And remember, get the code right, because otherwise nothing's going to work. Oh, and if you're worried, back up your world, back up your realm. Whatever it is, offline, online, doesn't matter. Just back it up, because you never know when you accidentally splice a ship in half and send it through another ship in a massive explosion of frustration and glory. Alright, I'm Neon. Thanks for watching Minecraft Engineering, and I'll catch you next time.